All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm not sure how many more is going to show up, and what we'll do is we will post this on our YouTube channel, if that's okay with you, Ron.
That's fine.
So, anything you want to say to kick us off, Ron?
I'm not sure what you said before, but since this is my first time at one of these, Steve, have you introduced me? Do they know who I am?
Well, yeah, we've talked just very briefly about you, but why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit about your woodworking background?
Okay, guys, I've been a woodworker since I was 19 years old, and I'm an old guy now, so that's a long time. I came out of the corporate world. I've got a business background. At one point, I was the president of a public company, but I've always done woodworking, mainly flat work, until I got out of the corporate world about 20 years ago, I guess. And somewhere along the way, I learned how to run a lathe. And I've been out on the wood show circuit now for 10 years, started out selling router bits and moved over into selling turning stuff, other people's, and then discovered that I had a knack for designing accessories and widgets and things that would help other people turn, and figured out how to make that stuff and make it affordable and do it professionally. So we still work the woodworking show circuit. We do a lot of turning symposiums, and I have a website that I sell this stuff through, and I'm a full-time wood turner. This is what I do for a living.
Yeah. So, didn't I read that you used to also demonstrate scroll saws?
Yeah, I was demonstrating for DeWalt before I was ever demonstrating for turners. Every time they would do something in our area regionally, they'd call me in to demonstrate the DeWalt 788 scroll saw.
Mm-hmm. So I assume that you're a fan of the 788?
Well, the Excalibur is better, but the 788 is a lot more affordable.
Yeah. So, and so what kind of lathe do you currently use?
Lathe as in plural.
I got you.
My big lathe that I turn on almost every day is a Powermatic 3520.
Okay.
So it'll swing 20 inches, a bowl 20 inches. Okay. It'll swing a bowl 20 inches. It's got a 2-horse motor. It's, one of the bigger, very high quality lathes.
Wow.
I also have, out on the show circuit, I turn on a Jet 721. I'm sorry, a Jet 1221. And here in my own shop, I've got 3 lathes set up. I've got 2 more in storage, a Jet 1642 and a Jet 1220. So one of the lathes here in the shop is the little small Delta 46460.
Wow. So you're lathe rich, huh?
Well, I'm space poor. I've got 5 pounds of stuff in a 2-pound bag.
I understand.
I also, for those of you who don't know it, I bought an Epilog laser in the summer, and I've been going nuts with that. And then last week, my new CNC arrived. I had one before, a ShopBot, but I sold it 4 feet by 8 feet in a 2-car garage with all my other stuff. So I needed the space. So I sold the ShopBot, and I bought a Legacy 2x4, 2 feet by 4 feet.
Wow.
So I haven't even turned it on yet, but I have a CNC. I have the lathes. I've got a 20-inch bandsaw, big table saws. The full complement.
Gotcha. So, in communicating with me, I saw a website come up called Cool Hammers. You want to talk a little bit about Cool Hammers?
Well, you mentioned the scroll saw.
Yes.
When I worked at Home Depot many, many moons ago, I had just gotten into scroll sawing, so I cut the store manager's name through the wooden handle of a hammer. As the store employees got me to do that as the gift for our manager. And everybody said, wow, that's a cool hammer. And it just kind of stuck. So I ended up making several hundred of them, including Bush 43 got one, Norm Abram got one. I had dinner with Oliver North. He got 2 of them. I was on a show by TBS called The Man-Made Movie, not The Man Show, The Man-Made Movie. And I did 16 episodes as their expert woodworker. And a lot of that had to do with the scroll saw. So my handle, the Cool Hammer Man, just kind of stuck. So that's what I named the website. About 2.5 years ago or so, we started another website called Ron Brown's Best.
Right.
And I've got so many links to that Cool Hammer site that I just left it up. You can't really order anything off of it, but there are a lot of galleries, a lot of pictures, a lot of stuff that's linked over the years out of the internet, so I just left it there.
Sure. So you talked a little bit about turning. So what's your favorite thing to turn?
There's no one favorite thing to turn. Turners can be broken down basically into 2 categories. One would be a bowl turner, and the other is a spindle turner. And I'm primarily a spindle turner, and I make, I don't know how well you can see this, but I make things like this little lidded box. I make tops and acorn lidded boxes and salt and pepper shakers and pepper mills and, all sorts of spindle work. I turn bowls also, but that's not my passion.
Gotcha. So you mentioned scroll saws a minute ago, and I hate to keep jumping back and forth, but what's the most unique thing you've ever seen made on a scroll saw?
Well, my Cool Hammers are pretty unique.
Sure.
Governor of Georgia, Sonny Perdue, has one. Norm Abram has one. One of the presidents of the United States has one. That's pretty unique.
Oh, yeah.
Unique. I don't know if you can get it between the arms on a scroll saw. Pretty much you can cut anything out of it you want.
Sure. So, yeah, I've made a few bowls on the scroll saw, and that's kind of fun if you like to sand. So,
there you go. I might say that my website, the ronbrownsbest.com, is a tremendous resource in that there are all kinds of things that folks can download totally for free. There's a section called Free Downloads, and it is filled with PDFs and plans and just all kinds of stuff that they could go on there, and they do have to register to download it, but there's absolutely no charge for anything they want to download.
Would you like to give them a tour of your website?
Well, I would if I knew how, Steve, but
I'll take care of that. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Okay, should be coming in any second here.
There you go. Steve, scroll all the way down to the bottom.
Yes.
You can do it slow, but scroll to the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking for free downloads and I don't see it.
Downloads.
There you go. Well, probably at the top there's something called, there at that top bar, free downloads. And there's a whole list. I don't know, it may be under that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I have actually downloaded several of these, including your business plan and this one, how to earn the $40 to $50 per hour on the wood lathe and scroll saw. So.
The one that says free report.
Yes.
That is something that I wrote. I have been in sales pretty much all my life, and I've sold everywhere that it's possible to sell, from trade shows to door-to-door consumer, door-to-door business. At the highest level, I was in corporate finance for quite a while, and I've just sold in business environments to consumers. Of course, at the woodworking shows and the symposiums as a vendor, we're doing consumer sales, but I've opened up all sorts of commercial accounts for repeat orders. And what's in this report are different approaches that I use, plans. There are even scripts in there that as things for you to say when you approach somebody as what we call a door opener. And one of the big things, a lot of people in the craft industry, the craft business, will work craft fairs and festivals and that sort of stuff. There is a big spreadsheet in there on what it takes to get ready for something like that. And totally. So I mean, it's all, as you can see, the price there, all this stuff is free.
Yeah, I need to download that one because I've started selling a few things, and I'm having a hard time with two things. Number one, pricing, and number two is determining where best to go.
I can help you with the pricing. Where best to go is really product specific, and it's going to be specific to what you're making. Is what you're making aimed at the collector? Is it aimed at a commercial account, or is it something that somebody's going to show up to at a festival? For example, if you're trying to make this little box, for example, can they see this?
No,
okay. Let's say I make a small lidded box, and that thing takes me pretty much all day to do. Well, if I can't sell it for $20 if I invested a whole day in it.
Right.
But then you can't. It's difficult to get a lot of money at a festival unless it's a fine art juried festival. So you have to. Whatever the venue is, you have to offer things that are specific or that are appropriate for that particular venue. If you're going to offer items to a gallery, then you do much higher end. I kind of work on the philosophy. I like McDonald's approach or Taco Bell or those kind of guys where they sell 1 million things that don't cost a whole lot of money.
Right.
And, everybody's got $20 or $30 in their pocket, everybody. And a lot of times they'll give you $40 for something. But when you get much above that at a festival environment, they're just most people are just not going to buy it. I mean, you might take a pen, one of the executive type fountain pens, that you get $150 for. Probably not going to have great luck at a street festival selling that. Right. But if you take a $20 or $25 slimline pen made out of acrylic or one of the click bullet pen type things, and you want to get $40 for that, you'll sell those all day long.
Do you look?
My best sellers over the years have been goofy little spinning tops. And I usually decorate them and texture them. It takes me about 6 minutes to make a top. And I used to sell them for $5. And I thought, well, that's kind of a lot of money. And then people started telling me I wasn't charging enough. So I went to $7. And I don't think I ever missed a sale, charging an extra $2. And I take them out on the circuit with me because they're good examples. They're good demonstration pieces. And I was running low on them, so I raised the price to $10 because I really didn't want to sell them, and they bought them anyway.
Okay.
So who knows? But my philosophy is you should have real expensive stuff, a few pieces, but then you ought to have a whole lot of stuff that's just impulse buy, pick up and go. For example, if you're a bowl maker, bowl turner, it's okay to have that, $150, $200 nice big ambrosia maple salad bowl. I mean, it really is. But on the side, you better have a ton of 8 and 9-inch little bowls that are going to be $25 and $30, because that's what's going to sell. At least in my.
When you go to these events, do you look for events that are traditionally draw a certain number of people?
Not necessarily. I lately, Steve, time is so precious that I don't do many of those events. I'm going to do one on October 30 in Lawrenceville, Georgia, where I live, but only because my church is holding it. It's going to be out in the parking lot, and I'm really going to support the church. But I don't have time to build inventory.
Yes.
I don't. I am so busy making other things, designing things that I have done a lot of them in the past, but I don't do them anymore. So in the past, what I look for are just, I want a lot of people, I want good access, and I bring a lot of the low dollar items along with some of the high dollar items, and you'll sell every once in a while. You'll sell some of the high dollar items, but I make a living when I'm doing that stuff, selling the down and dirty, quick and easy impulse buy stuff.
So I guess the takeaway here is to develop something relatively small that you can produce quickly and sell it for a reasonable amount.
Nick Cook told me that Rudolf Solnick told him, find something fast and inexpensive to make and make 1 million of them. And if you know Nick Cook, he's made way over 250,000 bottle stoppers.
Wow.
Okay. And he makes his other little tops that he sells. And he just, that's the bread and butter. How many Big Macs does McDonald's sell?
I'm sure millions.
How many New York strips does Ruth's Chris Steakhouse sell by comparison?
Right.
They sell some, but just not as many.
Right.
I get a lot of turners that are pretty good, and they'll make stuff that, maybe they can make 2 items in a day, and they're trying to make a living when they can, because they got to go out there and get $200 or $300 for those, and the market is there for $200 or $300, but there are a gazillion more people that'll give you that $5, $10, $15, $20, $30.
Sure.
And that's just what has worked for me. Now, it's not that I don't make expensive stuff. I do. I love it. I just don't depend on that to pay the bills.
Sure. Now, I think I saw in one of your videos where somebody in the audience said something like, you recommend people don't put things on consignment. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like consignment at all. I've done it. Generally, you put things on consignment because either A, you're afraid to ask for the money, or B, the shop that you're visiting doesn't have any money. And I have actually had a bad experience. I had a bunch of stuff on consignment up in Dahlonega back when I was just getting started. And those people, she was always late on her payments, and they ultimately went out of business, kept my merchandise and owed me a bunch of money. And I hear stories everywhere I go. So what I would rather see people do is treat it like a business. Let's say you're selling, copy machines, for example. Not everybody's going to buy a copier, and it just becomes a numbers game where you have to go, and in the business plan, there is a methodology approach that I teach in there, and it says, pick a number, like, for example, 25. And if you decide that every week you're going to make 25 calls, let's say you're trying to open some wholesale accounts, a gift shop, something like that, and you want them to carry whatever it is you're selling, whether it's pens or lidded boxes or bowls or whatever. So you go make those 25 calls. It might be 5 calls a day. You might just walk in with your business card and say, I'd like to arrange an appointment with the owner. I have some handmade items I think you might be interested in carrying. They sell very well. They'll make you a lot of money. You know, would you be that person? Or who do I need to contact to make that appointment? You say that 25 times a week. It can be 5 times a day on your lunch hour. You can make 25 calls on the weekend or whatever. But out of the 25 calls, only about 5 people are going to listen to you. They're going to say, yes, come on in, sit down, what do you got? Out of those 5 people, 2 of them are going to tell you there's not a fit, it doesn't work, no thanks. Then that you're down to 3, and probably 2 of the 3 are going to want to put your stuff in on consignment. And my answer is always, I don't do consignment, but I'd be happy to take an order. And that final person is actually going to say, well, I think that's a good deal. Let me give you an opening order for X amount of dollars. So if you make those 25 cold calls in a week, you're going to open 1 account. So if you do that 4 weeks in a month, you got 4 new wholesale accounts. A couple of months, you got 8. 3 months, you got 12 wholesale accounts. And then you're not probably going to have time to go out and make too many more calls.
That's true.
Because you're filling orders and reorders, and that's one of the methodologies that you'll find in that free business plan. I've done that thousands of times. I have, in my sales career as a sales manager, I have probably trained 2,500 door-to-door cold call salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we did it. You pick whatever your goal is for the number of calls you want to make, and you just go through the door with a business card in hand and a smile and ask for an appointment.
So what
the numbers don't lie. They always work.
Gotcha. So what is your experience with galleries?
Negative. And most of the people, I know a handful of people that do well in galleries out of thousands that I've talked to. You can have some success there. Galleries, for me, are just more of an ego trip.
I guess.
I mean, it's cool to say, well, I have my stuff in a gallery. Well, good. Are they selling anything? No. But I always sell my stuff.
Is there anything else on your website you would like to show?
Good. Well, go up to the header.
Okay.
Scroll up to the top menu bar.
Mm-hmm.
We have all kinds of different turning blanks, from ebony to hybrid pen blanks with Alumilite and burl. Go up above there.
Oh.
And then to the right of that are chucks.
Yep.
And I've got regular 4-jaw chucks, collet chucks, all kinds of chucks. And then DVDs. I think there are 18 of them on the website now. They are full-length teaching, 100% guaranteed, good videos, not YouTube stuff. These are good videos. Finishing, I've got a line of walnut oil-based finishes. The downloads you see. Kits, I've got various kinds of kits for you to make stuff, from laser cut kits for Christmas ornaments to just all kinds of stuff. Next is my Turner's Laser Guide, and that is for people that are doing hollowing projects. My laser guide mounts on a handheld hollowing tool rather than the big captive systems, although a lot of people do use it on a captive system like an elbow tool or a HollowFast or anything like that. It'll fit. Longworth chucks, I am the Longworth chuck guy. Leslie Longworth actually designed it some 40 years ago, but mine is the only commercially available one that's out there. My original version 2 is sold through mostly through Woodline up in Nashville, because that's where I started. The one that I sell is version 3, and I have it made offshore. Sharpening, I've got CBN wheels and sharpening jigs and all kinds of stuff over there. I have Steady Rest, that's my own brand. And then in terms of tools, I don't have the big name brands, the Robert Sorby and stuff like that, but I've got a lot of accessories, and I do have a few tools that are branded under my own name, and I've got some tools that are the Stone Mountain brand and the Savannah brand. And these are all quality turning tools. They're not the top of the line, but they don't cost a fortune either, and they're good, decent tools. So that, and I publish a newsletter once a week, and I usually run an ad, pick something and run an ad on it. Saves you anywhere from 10 to 50% usually. So it's a commercial website that you can get ideas. I do answer my emails. It might take me a day or two, but I'm available. You can contact me, ask me about stuff, and I'll usually get back to you pretty quickly, unless I'm out on the road at a show. And that a lot of the turners I know, you can't really talk to. The Richard Raffins, Nick Cooks, folks like that. Nick is probably one of the better ones. But there are a lot of these turners, you hear their name every day, you just can't talk to them. Well, I make myself available so you can talk to me, and I'm happy to answer questions.
And I saw on your kits, let me pull one up here. Well, the Christmas ornaments.
Go down to laser, that second one there, laser cut kits.
Yeah.
See it? Go up one.
Oh, sorry. Okay. 1 second. This one? Oh,
Yes.
okay. So I was kind of curious as to how do you get those designs in there? Like the butterfly.
Well, it's in the name. I cut them with a laser.
Sure.
Can you turn loose of the screen? I've got a couple here I can show how it works.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Should be popping back up.
All right. So our on my screen, I'm the little guy in the corner. Is everybody else seeing me?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can see something like, they can see this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Here is an example, and I can barely see this, guys, so I hope you can see it. Here's an example of a butterfly on one of the Christmas ornaments that I made. So what we do is we would have, you have a core block that's 1 3/4 inches square by about 4 inches long. And usually that's going to be walnut or mahogany or cherry or something like that. So I supply panels, 4 panels. And the panels would then, hold on, getting ahead of myself. This is the Christmas tree, obviously. So I would supply an insert. In this case, it's acrylic. And the insert would then get glued into the panel like that.
I see.
And then 4 of these panels get glued onto the block.
Yep.
So you have a glued up assembly. There's a little star that I didn't put in there. There are the stars. Mm-hmm. And that would get glued onto your core block. So if you look at this, here's the core, and then the panels are glued on 4 sides, and you just turn it.
I see.
Maybe you can see this one. This is a butterfly, just like the one that I just had. And on this, you can easily see there's a panel here, 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 and here.
Right.
And then the whatever it is, whether it's a butterfly or a Christmas ornament or this is a brand new kit. It's not even on the website yet. This one, I'm not sure how well you can see that. This is a lighthouse.
Lighthouse, yes.
Can you see that?
Yep, very nice.
Okay. So this is brand new. In fact, I just made this one today. I got a request for lighthouses, so I worked one up. I've also just done one on a nativity scene, but I haven't even cut it on the laser yet.
Nice.
So this system works on 1/4 inch thick panels, because for things this diameter, 1/4 inch is just exactly what you need. So the butterfly would only be as thick as the panel.
Yep.
So everything is a 1/4 inch. And you don't have to use these kits to do this. You mentioned a scroll saw.
Yes.
You could easily do this with a scroll saw, and when I first started, that's how I did it.
Stack cut?
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha.
Now, no matter what I did, because it has to be a 1/4 inch thick, as opposed to veneer, because on veneer is so thin you just turn it away. So even stack cutting, if you do the bevel cut thing, and you're going to change the shape of it as you turn the object. So I finally just resorted to straight up and down, which leaves a little bit of a saw curve, and I actually use fiberglass resin, regular old polyester fiberglass resin from Home Depot. Costs $15 a quart, and I mix it up in the little like the little ketchup cups that come from Burger King and stuff like that, and mix it up just a little bit. Put tape on the back of this like so, and then pour the fiberglass resin in. Then take my insert, and when I put the insert in, it's going to squish out all around. Okay. I don't know how well you can see that. That's a fleur-de-lis. Can you see the fiberglass resin on top?
Yep.
So there's the tape on the back.
Yep.
And you can see a little bit of the fleur-de-lis on the back. So step 1 is always to glue up your panels. Step 2, then glue that to the core. And step 3, turn it. It's actually pretty and very, very easy.
So the fiberglass resin fills in the saw curve, and you're ready to go.
Yeah, if you can look at that, that has no, there we go. That has no color or anything. It's just the resin, and it looks like outlined in ebony is what it looks like. It's not an optical illusion, but they're just beautiful. Can you see the antenna on my butterfly?
Yes.
So that's just saw cut that's filled in with resin.
Now you're not adding any color to the resin, are you?
You don't need to. In fact, if you do, I don't know if you can see this. This is the Lone Star for Texas. Probably can't see it too well, but I got a lot of bleeding when I did put color in the resin. So in the maple that I use, color is a bad thing. Color doesn't work.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that's basically it. I did put these on sale, and we have had they're such a hit, it's just scary. I had one guy call me up on the phone. He ordered 80 of them. One guy.
Wow.
And then he called me back the next day and said, wait, I need some more.
Wow.
One customer. So needless to say, we have been making these kits like crazy. If you get more than one, I've got 20% off of one, but if you get more than one, you save even more than that.
So, wow. I mean, I'm really impressed with the way they turn out. I think they look really good.
They're amazing. It's like they say, in order to be an overnight success, all you got to do is work your ass off for about 20 years.
Yep.
And this is something I have been making for about 15 years on a small scale, and I just finally, after all this time, figured out how to automate it.
With the laser?
Yep. I tried and tried and tried to do it with my CNC I even went down as small as about a 1/16 of an inch on a router bit.
Mhm.
So I could, because you can't get square corners with a round router bit.
Right.
So I wanted the square corner to be as small, as delicate as possible, and even that didn't look good, and I broke a lot of cutters. So when I got the laser, that's what did the trick for me.
Gotcha. So,
I really came tonight to answer questions for folks, something that they want to know about. So if anybody has any questions, maybe we ought to open it up to the audience.
oh, absolutely. So, Mike, it looks like Rick stepped out for a minute. Oh, there he comes
Yeah,
back.
Rick's here.
Yeah. You guys have any questions for Ron? Do you guys have any questions for Ron?
I did have a question about the Longworth chucks. Do you make custom sizes of those?
No,
No? Okay.
no. What do you have in mind, Mike?
My leg will turn 19 inches. So I was looking for something around 19.
The biggest I'm going to have for you is going to be a 16-inch.
Right, that's what I saw.
We make a 16. Well, we make a 10-inch, a 12-inch, a 14, a 16, a 20, and a 24.
Okay.
Now, those Longworth chucks are made out of phenolic. I actually wholesale those to Rockler, and we get them in a container load at a time. So to make one is just, I mean, unless you got a big sack of money, then I'd be happy to talk.
All right.
All right. So, Rick, do you have any questions for Ron?
No, I don't think so. I mean, nothing I can think of off the top of my head right now.
Sure.
I've been getting the newsletter for about a year, so I'm fairly familiar with everything.
In fact, that reminds me, Ron, I got your newsletter today, and I was pleasantly surprised that you mentioned us in your newsletter. So thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. I gave the link.
Yes.
I put the link in there for you.
So,
right now, here we've got 10 weeks before Christmas, something like that.
yep.
Beginning January, I'll be actually out of town for 3.5 months.
Wow.
So I have to build inventory between now and New Year's for the entire show season. I've got some jigs that I make, some setting jigs and stuff for sharpening. I've got all these laser kits. I've got 18 DVDs I'll be taking on the road. So I will not get a day off between now and show season.
So you're a busy man.
Yes, sir. Oh, well, it's better than the alternative, huh, Steve?
Absolutely.
And this is just, people say, well, it's your show season doesn't start. I guess you sit around and watch TV. Well, no, yeah, I do after 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah. So Zach,
And
I'm glad you joined
a
us.
lot of days I actually sleep in as late as 5:30.
Well, I'm sure you also don't get a break during show season either, huh?
Well, interesting you should say that. I don't, because I'm on the road 7 days a week and literally won't be home for the first 10 weeks. But we travel on Monday. We set up the show on Thursday, and then the show's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, we drive to wherever the next city is. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, basically, we just lay around in the hotel room and rest.
I see.
Except that I'm under contract to write a book now. So Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll be writing.
Wow. Well, Zach, I'm glad you joined us. Do you have any questions for Ron?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Ron, I know you do a lot of teaching, or I guess demonstrating on the lathe. What are some of the more common mistakes that newbies make when they start turning?
Well, good questions. The advent of the carbide turning tools
Yes.
has really helped a lot of people. Carbide tools are scrapers,
Mhm.
and they will always be scrapers, just no matter what you say. Well, look at the way this tool cuts. It's a scraping cut, not really a cut. So the learning curve is very, very small, and the new guys can actually make something that looks presentable as long as they get a handle on the shape that they're trying to go for, and they can just scrape enough wood away to make something that's actually, very beautiful. So that has eliminated a lot of the early frustration. And then later on, when they figure out they can't do everything they want to do with a carbide tool, the sense of urgency is greatly diminished because at least they can get it done with the carbide tool, the Easy Wood tools or the ones from Rockler or the other tools. So the frustration level has really, really gone down. But everybody I talk to hates a skew. It's one of the best tools in our toolbox. And if they really understood how to rub the bevel, that would go a long way toward eliminating catches. The other thing that they need to do is sharpen. Folks need to know how to sharpen their tools. And you really need to spend the money for a sharpening jig, and then you need to learn how to use it. You don't have to go buy CBN wheels that cost $200 a wheel, but you do need a jig. I happen to sell one that's $100. It's not a one-way. The one-way equivalent's $180. The one I sell will sharpen all 6 categories of turning tools, which are the spindle gouge, the bowl gouge, the roughing gouge, the parting tool, the skew, and the bowl scraper. And my jig will sharpen all that, so it doesn't matter whether you get mine or someone else's, the one-way Wolverine or the SharpFast, get a jig and learn how to sharpen your tools and learn how to set it up.
Don't you find on the carbides that the carbide tools you can't get as sharp as the high-speed steel?
No, everybody says you can't, and maybe technically way down deep, that's true. But the difference is not the sharpness. The difference is your scraping. You can take a high-speed steel scraper or Bedan, for example, and if you scrape with that Bedan, you're going to tear the crap out of the wood just like you do a carbide tool.
Okay.
I love carbide tools for hollowing the inside of stuff. If I'm gonna when I hollowed the inside of this vase, I with an Easy Wood carbide tool, not just because it's acrylic and burl and just really, really hard, but I would do this if this was walnut or cherry or whatever it is. I would do the inside of the lid same exact way with a scraper. So that technically that's true, but actually it's how you're using the tool, not the sharpness of the tool, because the quality of the carbide and the granularity of the carbide that we use in these tools today is small enough that the difference is almost not noticeable.
Okay.
And let me add something here. For anybody out there that has carbide tools with either a round or a square cutter, it doesn't matter, you can sharpen those tools. You can sharpen the cutters. You don't have to go buy a replacement cutter every time it gets a little bit dull. You just simply unscrew the cutter from the tool, turn it over face down so that the cutting side, the upside, do that face down on diamond hone, put some honing oil on it, run it 7 or 8 or 10 times around there, and it'll be as good as new. I use 1,000 grit, but you could use 600 grit and do almost as good a job and go back and scrape your little brains out. If you're a bowl turner, what is the last inside finishing cut anyway? What is it but a shear scrape, right? Where you take the scraper you turn it up at a 45-degree angle, and you make a finish cut on the inside of the bowl. Well, who says you can't do that with a carbide tool?
Yeah.
You can, because it's a scraper. It's just made out of carbide instead of high-speed steel.
Sure.
Now, they always tell you, flat and level or you'll go to hell. You won't. Shear scrape with carbide just like you would if it was high-speed steel.
Sure.
It works fine.
That's good to know. I'm going to have to try that.
Well, it'll save you money. Those carbide cutters are not expensive, $15 or so.
Right.
You can sharpen it 5 or 6 or 7 times before you have to spend the money. And most of the time it's a convenience factor unless you just have a drawer full of cutters, which is a waste of money, I think. What I find, Steve, is that lots and lots and lots of turners, in fact, the vast majority of turners, are not really interested in selling their stuff. You find that surprising?
I do find that surprising.
So did I. But a lot of people, it's a hobby, and they're totally happy with spending money and never selling anything. So I figured people would want to sell their stuff, and the vast majority of turners don't.
Considering the price of the lathes and the chucks and the turning tools, it's amazing that they don't want to try to recoup some of that.
Well, do you play golf?
I do not.
For those golfers out there, they're not recouping any of that money.
Oh, that's true too. So
it's a hobby. They spend money.
yeah.
So that's for most turners. And remember, I only see between 50 and 70,000 people a year, face to face. The vast majority of them really are not interested in selling anything. And then you get that small percentage that want to quit their job and go be a professional turner. Well, those guys are going to have about as much luck as a professional bass fisherman.
I know that's not good.
Yeah, you know how I know that?
You used to be one. Yeah.
I tried to be one for 2 solid years.
Wow.
Yeah, and never made a nickel.
Yep.
Had a lot of fun, spent a lot of money, but couldn't feed the family on that. And it's almost the flip side of that is everybody can sell enough to make them think that they could make a living, because we all have friends and relatives and neighbors that look at the stuff we make and go, wow, I'll give you $20 for that, and you paid $50 for the blank.
Yes.
But it's easy to sell a little tiny bit of stuff, and it's easy to sell a pin here and a pin there, but it's not going to put groceries on the table or pay the mortgage.
Right.
In order to do that, you have to treat it just like a business. And frankly, I do. I was very, very blessed and privileged to spend a week with a fellow named Chris Stott, S-T-O-T-T, from England. He's got a book out that's very, very famous. And his book is Lidded Boxes, 50 Designs. And lots of people have seen that. And he used to come to America for 12 weeks every year. And basically, he made his annual income in America in 12 weeks. And then he went back to England and kind of puttered around till next year. And when he came to my house, I had a notebook with questions on it. And I remember sitting on the sofa saying, Chris, is it possible to make a decent living as a wood turner? And he said, oh, yeah, of course you can make a decent living as a wood turner, as long as you can live decently on $15,000 a year.
I'm not.
I said, that ain't my idea of living decently.
Right.
Okay. But he was right. So I said, well, okay, of the 15,000, and I hope you're joking, turns out he wasn't, but of the $15,000, where's the money? Is the money in making bowls or boxes or that sort of thing? Or is it in teaching classes, or is it in books or DVDs? Where's the money? And he told me that the money for him was in his videos. Now, back in those days, it was VHS tapes.
Right.
And he said, that's where the money was. And this is probably 12 years ago,
Mhm.
12, 13 years ago. And we have stayed in contact. He's a good friend of mine. And I saw him a few years later at one of the AAW symposiums. He was one of the instructors. And he looked around and he said, well, he said, I see you took it to heart. And, you're doing way better than I ever did. And I've been making a living doing this for 10 years now. So, I took a class from, Nick Cook here in Atlanta. I hired Nick for a day and I went to his shop and I bought the whole day. And I showed up with my notebook and I asked him a lot of the same questions and I got a lot of the same answers. That anybody can make a little bit of money selling what they make, probably enough to buy a new truck. Maybe if you save your money and you're serious about it, you might be able to buy a new lathe. But most folks are not going to do that. And I know Jimmy Clues is a friend of mine. Jimmy makes a good living. And Jimmy does it because he's gone all the time. He lives on the road, basically. He also has his line of signature tools, and he's having some good success with that. Woodcraft bought from him, and a few of the other stores has bought from him. He's got a line of dies now. And if you study business, excuse me, a lot of the big corporations, if you'll kind of look at the way they do business and learn from it, there's some very good lessons there. For example, Taco Bell. Now, it's owned by Pepsi-Cola, big company. The food is not necessarily good for you. It tastes good, not a real healthy way to eat. They only have about 8 different ingredients, but there are 40 things on the menu. So they assemble those in lots of different ways. So the lesson for us is, and nothing there is very expensive. So the lesson for us is, if you're going to make tops, make a top 1,000 different ways. If you're going to make a turn-lidded box, make 20 varieties of it. If you're going to make a bowl or a plate or a platter, something like that, make a gazillion different varieties of that item. So you don't have to learn a million things. You just do a variation on a theme. But they sell lots and lots of inexpensive things that are quick to make. And same thing with McDonald's. I mean, what do they have? Hamburger, special sauce, lettuce, tomato, and bread. And then every once in a while they deep fry a piece of chicken parts together. But they sell 1 million of them. That's kind of the business model that works for me. I've got things that I make that take a while, but generally it's not because I'm going to sell them. Generally that's because I'm making it for me or for my wife or a gift for somebody. But the bread and butter for me comes from the little stuff, the little acorn lidded boxes that I make, the spinning tops, the small lidded boxes. That's what I sell, literally thousands of.
Are you still selling your mason jar tops?
Well, actually, I never sold those. My wife gave a whole bushel basket of them away. I'm going to do a DVD. I hope to get a DVD done between now and when show season starts, because it is the most requested download on my website. I taught a class on it for the Gwinnett Woodworkers Association maybe a year ago, and how to do mason jars. I made around 100 of them, I guess. I've got probably 30 or 40 of them left because my wife gave them away. And it just, I've never sold them. She gave them away. But I'll tell you, they're just popular as all get out. I haven't figured out how to make them fast enough to make them commercially viable if I were going to make finished goods.
I see.
I can't, since I'm not, well, I am retired, but I turn for a living. I had to have a conversation with myself to figure out what business I'm in. And for me, I am not a finished goods turner. That's not where I make my money. I make my money making videos, teaching other people how to do stuff, designing tools, and then selling the tools or the accessories. That, because there are only so many hours in a day and I can't do it all.
Sure. So when you do finish items, what's your favorite finish?
Well, it depends on the dollar level. I love, for most things, I love a CA finish.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot of work to do it right. And there are many, many, many steps, and there are a lot of things that can go wrong. And a CA finish is very time consuming. So that is my preference. However, a lot of times I'll use a rattle can and spray lacquer on it.
Yep.
Or I'll use friction finish, which is as you know, is shellac and alcohol. It depends on the item, how much time I have allowed myself on it, what I'm trying to do, where it's going to go. This Christmas ornament right here
Yeah.
has a CA finish. Very shiny, very sparkly, but this is a sample that I made to show one of my laser cut kits, and I need it to look good regardless of how long it takes.
Sure.
So this has a CA finish. The ebony finial here
Mm-hmm.
has no at all. It's just buffed.
I see.
The vase here, that's bright orange. Could you see that, Steve?
Yeah.
That's bright orange. This is a limonite, so it's acrylic,
Mm-hmm.
and this is burl. So I did seal this with 2 coats of CA, but
Okay.
then I just buffed the living heck out of it. So really, this is pretty much just like you'd have an acrylic pen. So that's the finish. But this is going to be a sample that we'll take out on the show because we sell blocks of this material. So it really depends on what I'm making, what I'm doing, what its ultimate purpose is. Most of my bowls, plates, and platters just have a walnut oil finish
Okay.
because it's what's appropriate for that.
Sure. Now, I started a debate on our website, and I got 2 camps. The debate was, when using a CA finish on a pen or whatever, how far do you sand the wood? What's the highest grit you go to?
Well, I'm glad you said wood because wood and acrylic are very different.
Sure.
I go to 800 grit, but I don't need to. I go to 800 grit because that's what I'm used to using, and I make up little pads with 6 pieces of sandpaper on it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's 150, 220, 320, 400, 600, 800. And I make it up in a little pad, staple on the end, and I just go through the grits, in less than a minute. I'm going to go through all the grits on whatever I'm using. If it's a combination, if it's a hybrid where I have some acrylic and some wood, same thing, 800 grit. On pens, let's say I was going to do a curly maple pen with no acrylic, just wood, curly maple wood, 400 grit is plenty fine.
And then do you really buff out that finish?
If I'm going to put CA,
Yes.
CA is a different story. For me to do CA, I do 2 coats of thin as sealer coats, and then I'll do 3 coats of medium, and I don't put them on very thick. I get a lot of people that tell me that when they do a CA finish, it cracks.
Right.
It cracks because A, it's not cured, and B, they put it on too thick. So when I got 5 coats of CA, 2 thin and 3 medium, I go back and I start with 150 grit. And I'll dry, we're talking dry.
Right.
And I'll do 150, 220, 320, 400, 600, 800. When I'm through with the 800, I'll stop the pen and do the random orbit just the random orbit.
Mm-hmm.
And the finish will still be fairly cloudy and fairly scratchy. At that point, I begin wet sanding because the wood is sealed. I'm not going to get any water down on the wood. which would be a disaster if you're trying to finish this. So then I'll wet sand, and I go up through 9 grits of micromesh.
Mhm.
Micromesh. I start at 1,500 and I end at 12,000. There are 2 more finishing steps after that. After I've sanded with 12,000 grit, I'm going to use a scratch remover. And you can use 2020 Plasti-Polish. You can use any of the scratch removers. I actually like Meguiar's rubbing compound that's super fine to rub out oxidized paint.
Yep.
It's in kind of a red plastic bottle
Mhm.
because it lasts forever. And it does a great job. Sometimes I will actually stop right there because it's just brilliant. But probably at least half of the time, I'm then going to go to the buffer. And I use a blue compound, which is the finest. For folks who don't know, emery is like sandpaper. I mean, it's just really coarse. The black stuff is really coarse. Then you move up to the brown Tripoli type. There are 2 different kind of a red and a brown, but Tripoli is still pretty coarse. Then above that, you got a white diamond, which is a lot finer than the Tripoli, but it's not nearly as fine as it can be. Above the white diamond, you have the green knife honing compound. And then above that, you have the blue compound, which is made for rubbing out helicopter cockpit windshields. For polishing it, getting the scratches out of that. I use the blue compound most often. And at that point, it looks like glass.
Wow. That's good to
So
know.
that's what you asked me, what's my favorite finish?
Yes.
The CA is my favorite, but it's very time consuming.
Do you use an accelerator?
Most of the time, yeah.
Okay.
If it's very, very humid, it can cloud up depending on the type of CA you use.
Sure.
And I use Starbond. It's something that I sell out on the road. It's got a 20-month shelf life guarantee, so you don't have to worry about it going hard in 6 months. So, and it seems to have a low foaming quality.
Mhm.
But I'm not putting my CA on very thick to begin with.
Sure.
I'm not slopping it on. I'm not using half a bottle every time I finish something.
I was amazed at the learning curve with CA.
If you don't have anybody who knows what they're doing to teach you, that's true, because you have to make all the mistakes.
Yep.
And it's not very forgiving.
Right.
But I could teach you how to do a CA finish in 15 minutes, and you'd be an expert. My sweet wife, Janice, went out on the show circuit with us last year, and her job was to demonstrate CA pin finishing. And we went through about, in a 16-show season, we went through over 2,000 pins.
Wow.
So she's pretty good with the CA finish.
I bet she is now.
Well, she was pretty good, when we actually hit the road, because I took some time and taught her, but it really isn't that hard.
So, but you're right, it is not forgiving.
Right. While we're mentioning this, let me back up and mention something, or again, readdress it. For those folks out there that have had CA finishes crack,
Mhm.
which that's a very common complaint, you're putting on too much finish, and you're not letting the coats cure before you put a coat on top of it.
So that brings another question. So how long should they cure before you top coat them?
Well, I do use the accelerator.
Uh-huh.
So I'll put on a thin coat. First coat would be thin,
Mhm.
and it'll be thin CA, and I put it on thinly and wipe it off with a paper towel. Then I hit it with accelerator. You don't have to wait but 10 or 15 seconds, but if I can take my finger and touch the pin, and if it's still tacky, it's not cured.
Yeah.
Wait until it's completely bone dry. Then I put another thin coat on top of that. Sometimes I'll sand it right there with 220. If it got all streaky and lumpy and bumpy, I'll sand it there. And then I'll start with 3 coats of the medium, But even the medium I put on pretty thin. And then I'll hit it with the accelerator, and I will wait 15 seconds, 20 seconds, something like that, and I'll touch it with my finger. And if it's at all sticky, I don't go to the next coat. And the reason that the CA cracks is because the underneath coats are curing after the coats on top have seemingly cured.
That's it.
And there's internal stress and tension, and it cracks.
Okay, Mike and Rick, jump in here. I'm
So
sorry,
you
Mike.
covered everything pretty thoroughly. I mean, I don't, I don't really have a lot of questions. Plus, I've already gotten the, I've already gotten the packets on, you know, that you send out to the email. So, I'm kind of,
What kind of tuning do you do, Rick?
I'm sorry,
Are
I'm
you
kind
a-
of what?
Are you a spindle turner or a bowl turner?
I would consider myself more of a spindle turner. I've done a few bowls, but I don't know. It's okay. I don't mind doing it once in a while, but I would never be one of these guys that have like 100 bowl blanks stacked up waiting to dry. You know, once in a while is enough for me.
Let me make a suggestion to you, Rick. We had a discussion in our house about turning bowls, and my wife said, well, you can turn bowls where the wood is kiln dried and all like that, but I'd like to have a nice big 14-inch salad bowl. How long would that take to dry? And I said, we won't live that long, so we have to turn it green. And she said, well, okay, go turn it. And I said, well, we have company coming over that weekend. And she said, I'd like to have a salad bowl. And I said, oh, no. I got to turn the bowl. I got to wait 6 months to a year for it to dry. Then I got to turn it again. And all this conversation led to, why do you have to let the freaking bowl dry so long? And I said, well, because it won't stay round. It'll go oval. She says, I don't care. Oval is pretty. I like oval. So that led to me turning just soppy, wet green bowls from start to finish in one session. I'm talking to, 3/8 of an inch, half-inch thick, large bowls, completely turned, start to finish, sanded, oiled, the whole deal, all in one go. You know what happened to them? They all went oval. They didn't crack because I turned it a uniform thickness all the way around. They didn't crack. My wife absolutely loves them. And all the women that come over and see them go, what a beautiful bowl. How did you get that shape?
Yeah.
So I probably will eventually do a bowl turning video. And it's going to, I think I'm going to call it something like turn a green bowl, no waiting. Finish it all in one session. If it goes oval, nobody cares. And then I was talking to a fellow at a show, and he said that he didn't have enough inventory for this particular festival he was going to do. So he turned a lot of stuff green, and of course they all went oval. And he had some bowls that he had rough turned and then let dry. And he said the ones that sold were which ones? The oval ones. So now that's all he does. So there is nothing in the world wrong with turning a whole bowl green. What'll get you in trouble is leaving the bottom thick. If you leave the bottom thick with that tenon on it, you'll get a lot of failure. But if you turn it uniformly thick all the way around, don't put a huge base on it, it's going to go a little bit oval, but nobody cares. Besides that, if it's a utilitarian bowl and you're going to put something wet in it, salad with salad dressing, broccoli, hot bread, something like that, moisture is going to get into that bowl and it's going to go oval anyway. I mean, even if you let it dry a year, once you expose it to moisture, it's still going to go oval. So
Yes.
why wait a year? Like green.
People always ask for salad bowls, but that's a good point, because I usually end up telling them, well, maybe in about a year from now I'll have it ready for you. So, I just start giving it to them green and let them have it.
That is the mantra. Just tell them, say, hey, this is going to change shape. Make sure that you do dish the bottom needs to be concave a little bit. So when it shrinks, it won't start rocking on the table. But tell them, hey, this is going to go oval. It'll change shape a little bit. It shouldn't crack, and just enjoy it. Somebody said, how long do you let your wood cure before you turn it? I said, my wood needs to age at least 20 minutes. and then I'll turn the heck out of it, sling water everywhere, turn it. It was a huge surprise to me when I figured out that you could sand green wood. And you can. I didn't know that. But you can sand it right up to 400 grit if you want to. But what you can't do is turn halfway through it and then go to lunch.
Yeah.
Unless you put a plastic bag over it. So,
yeah, and
anyway,
actually, I did find out if you sand green wood, it will stay fairly smooth even if you let it dry. I mean, it doesn't get too coarse, even if you let it dry for 9 months. The way I did my last bowls, because I forgot about them. But
typically, I would make a bowl. It's going to take me, hour and a half, 2 hours to make a big bowl. I'm going to make it, sand it, get it off the lathe, and then I'm going to, right 10 minutes after I leave the shop, I'm going to flood it with walnut oil inside and out, let it soak in for about a half an hour, do it again, and get those first 2 coats of walnut oil on it the same day I turned it. And sometimes it was cut down yesterday.
wow.
And I got a whole house full of them. Hold on a second. I've got one on a shelf behind me, so let me just grab it. I don't know if you guys can't see this one. This is ambrosia maple. That was turned green. That's a very, very deep salad bowl. This one is one that I turned in a class with Mike Mahoney. And can you see how oval that is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's got the telltale dip there.
We turned this in one day. It's about 1/4 of an inch thick, probably all the way around. My wife loves this bowl. Everybody that sees it loves it, and it's this way. It's actually fairly oval, but everybody loves it. So, I'm just lazy enough to turn bowls in one session and be done with it. Now, if it's an art piece, if it's something you paid $150 for the blank for, if it's camphor or some exotic rosewood, okay, go ahead and turn it twice. But this stuff's going to have broccoli in it, So I made one for a neighbor lady out of some pecan, and I didn't know pecan was very porous, so we ended up mixing up beeswax and walnut oil emulsion so we could actually seal all the pores. She has made biscuits in that every morning for 5 years and loves it.
Wow.
That's a lot of biscuits.
So Ron Brown's bowls get turned in one day and oiled up and put on the table.
I can live with that.
There you go. Make some. They're fun. When I was out on tour, the very first year that I was out on my own, one of my demonstrations was turning bowls, and I turned them out of ambrosia maple. And I had 45 minutes to do the class, and I did start to finish 45 minutes out of soppy, wet ambrosia maple. And if you're using something with an Ellsworth grind and you got 45 minutes to turn a bowl in front of an audience, I turned them start to finish and left a small tenon on the bottom of them, threw them in the bin, when the show season was over, we had about, I don't know, 50 bowls, you know, and every one of them went oval, and they're beautiful, and I've got a lot of them in my house.
So you prefer like a walnut oil for the finish?
I do. There are only two oils that are going to harden, two natural oils. One is tung oil, and it usually has all kinds of junk in it, Japan dryers and that sort of stuff. The walnut oil that we use, whether it's mine or Mike Mahoney's or Doctor's Wood Shop, that walnut oil has been heated. Once it's been heated, it will polymerize and dry over time. So I just like walnut oil. It's all natural stuff, nothing added to it. It's just been heated and filtered.
Okay.
So that's why for you. You can go down to the grocery store and buy walnut oil you put on your salad, but it won't cure. You could use mineral oil. Mineral oil will never cure, but if this is something you're going to put into use, you're going to wash it so much you're just going to have to re-oil it anyway. So you can just use plain old mineral oil that you get at CVS or Rite Aid or someplace like that.
Any other questions?
I've tried to turn some bowls with Greenwood, and they always cracked. I think maybe it's because I wasn't getting to the log quick enough. You know, the log had been cut for a few days, and then I tried to turn it.
It's probably not that.
Yeah.
What it probably is your thickness is not uniform all the way around. Generally, you're going to have a huge tenon on the bottom of it. And if you look at your bowls, where the tenon is, that part of the bowl down the very base of it is usually a lot thicker than the sides are. And the sides will dry much more quickly than the bottom, and it's going to cause stress. That's where the crack comes from. I know from having turned all those bowls out of the ambrosia maple that if you leave the bottom heavy, it's going to crack almost every time.
Okay.
So you got to thin the bottom. I mean, not unreasonably thin, but you'll have to thin the bottom down. Try to get it about the same thickness as the other ones. Mike, are you selling these bowls? Are these going to be for Christmas presents? What?
The ones I sell, I use dry wood.
Okay. You'll have a lot more fun.
I just haven't had any luck with green at all.
Okay, it's because your thickness is not uniform.
And that's the reason for the Longworth chuck, right? To get the bottom down thin enough. Well,
when the bowl is green, you don't need the Longworth. You need the Longworth to take the foot off. Yeah. And a lot of people will use the Longworth chuck because if you do let it season for 6 months, it is going to go oval, and the tenon that you have on there, your chuck won't grip it because it's oval. So you use the Longworth and the tailstock so you can return the tenon back to round so your chuck will grip it correctly.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
Because the tenon will distort along with the rest of the bowl.
Yeah.
But your cracking is coming because the bowl is heavy. It's too heavy on the bottom and around the tenon. Now, you can't make the tenon so small that it won't hold, but you got to pay a lot of attention and get that, fairly thin down there.
Yeah, when I use dry wood, I use a recess, and it's maybe 30 seconds deep.
Sure.
I don't have much there at all.
Well, as long as you have enough out from the recess where it won't break out, you're in good shape. I do that quite a bit on platters.
But with the Greenwood, I can't do that.
You can. You just need 30 seconds ain't going to cut it.
Right. I got to go
It
deeper.
needs to be a lot deeper.
Yep.
And you need to leave some more meat around. But if we're talking about a tenon that you would grab in compression,
right.
You go back to, do you still have some of the bowls that have cracked?
No, no.
Okay, but just pay attention and get a uniform thickness, and you'll have a lot more luck.
Okay.
All right, Mike.
Other questions? No? You guys sure are being quiet tonight.
Well, Ron's so great at talking. He, pretty much answers all the questions before we come up with them.
How about that?
Every mistake that you guys have made, I've made twice.
Right. Well, they say that's the difference between master and amateur. Masters made more mistakes than the amateurs even tried.
Yep. I've made my share for sure.
Yep.
So, Zach, do you have any questions?
No, just listening, taking it. I'm not a turner, but it was interesting.
Okay.
What kind of woodworking do you do, Zach?
Flat work. I built a few tables for a couple of breweries around here. Just stuff like that, when I have time.
Anything you're having trouble with? I've built over 1,000 pieces of custom furniture for folks.
Not right now. Unless you know a lot about F-250 diesels. That's my problem right now.
I got one.
You do?
Yeah.
I just got
What
done.
year?
2000.
Say again?
2000.
I have a 2004.
I just got done doing my right rear wheel bearings. So that was an enjoyable endeavor.
I went to a brand new F-250. You can get one probably for around 50,000. And I turn wood for a living, so that was a lot of money for me.
Yeah.
So I looked for a used one, and I bought a big old 35-foot fifth wheel.
Okay.
And we took it out on the show circuit, so I needed something to pull it. And I went to Houston, Texas, and I bought this one. And where do you live, Zach?
I'm in Connecticut right now.
You're in Connecticut. Well, about 25 miles from my house is a world premier independent diesel repair place called Power Stroke Help, powerstrokehelp.com.
I know them.
Huh?
Yeah, I know them.
You do?
Yeah, well, I know of them because they're spoke up very highly on the forums.
Yeah, well, because they're just freaking brilliant. So I went all the way to Texas and bought my truck, and I got it cheap. I brought it home, took it immediately up there. They went through bumper to bumper and said, okay, it needs this, this, and this. We can bulletproof it for X amount of dollars. And I had budgeted for that. I had him bulletproof it, and it is spectacularly good performer now.
Yeah, that's what I'm in the process of doing right now, is doing all my bulletproofing work.
I did all the EGR deletes and all that stuff. I had them completely rebuild the turbo. They just did a lot of stuff. It's great. I drove it 30,000 miles on the show circuit last year, and I had some problems, but it was the shakeout. I had the thermostat stuck, and the starter went out, and all the little crap that's going to happen on the older trucks.
Yeah.
But I also run Arch Oil, ARCH oil additives.
Uh-huh.
You know those?
No, I hadn't heard of them.
When I added the Arch Oil to the oil, I boosted my fuel economy 2.5 miles per gallon by just adding that to the oil.
What kind of oil do you run?
Full synthetic.
Yeah, that's what I do too. I run T6 Rotella.
T6 Rotella with the Arch Oil additive to the oil. And then every time I put fuel in it, I add the Arch Oil fuel additive.
Okay.
My 6-liter 2004 diesel with 170,000 miles on it is getting around 18 miles per gallon on the freeway.
That's really good for a 6-liter.
It is. You have the 7.3 or the 6?
I got a 7.3. And so When I get all my bugs worked out, I'll be up there running around 18, 19.
Yep, it's cool. Well,
Yeah.
I sold my fifth wheel yesterday, so I don't really need it, but I'm going to keep it anyway.
Well, I mean, once you get them right, they don't never go bad on you. You just like you said, alternator, battery, and thermostat or something like that. Maybe a water pump. Things that go out.
Yep, just normal stuff.
Yeah. So
All right, good talking to you, Zach.
yeah, appreciate it.
Well, if there are no more questions, then we can sign off here. Let me give it one more chance. So, Mike, Rick, you guys have questions?
I'm good. It was interesting though.
Good.
I'd like to invite all you guys to go look at that website, use it as a resource. Tons and tons of download stuff. My email address, my personal email is all over there. If I can help you in any way, drop me a note and I'll do what I can.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us. It's been very informative. So, and we'll get this posted on the website. I'll send you a URL once it's posted and let you know where it's at.
All right, cool. Thanks, Steve.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you, Ron.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Just before I leave real quick, do you guys have any problems, any technical problems?
On my, I did, but it's all my stuff.
Oh, okay.
I got router issues and connectivity issues with my ISP.
I saw you dropping out there a couple of times, but
Yeah.
we're good. But I'm glad you guys could join us. I hope it was informative. So
Yeah, it was cool.
Ron's a pretty good salesman.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
And Zach, he talked earlier about how to sell your stuff. And so, you know, if you're curious about that, you might want to look at the video sometime. He's been doing it for 10 or 15 years, making
Yeah.
a living. So anyway, all right. Well, I need to leave.
Yep.
I will see you guys later.
All right, have a good one.
Have a good evening.